Hey everyone! Welcome to my tutorial on blending with colored pencils. Whether or not you have experience working with colored pencils, you'll find many helpful techniques and tips in this video. The key takeaways from this lesson will be how to layer effectively, how to use contrast and detail, and which motor skills you should be practicing. After watching this video, tag me in a drawing you made using the techniques you learned to be featured in my YouTube and Instagram stories. You can tag me on Instagram or Twitter. Check the description below for my social media links. Alright, let's get started. So first of all, the materials I'm using for this drawing are Strathmore Tone Tan paper, Prismacolor Premier colored pencils, my Derwent electric eraser, and my wonderful gel pens. To start off, I created my light sketch using a 2H graphite pencil. It's important to use a light pencil, probably lighter than HB, to create the outline or sketch so that it doesn't interfere with the coloring. Make sure you choose your materials with the final image in mind. For instance, I love using toned paper because it contrasts really well with bright and light colors. So in terms of starting the drawing, it doesn't actually matter too much where you start. Just remember that you should generally be working from the background to the foreground. Here I decided to start with the pupil of the eye. Something that's important to take note of when starting is what colors are present in your reference picture, if you're using one. Sometimes it can be a little hard to tell which shade to actually use, so I like to have a scrap piece of paper beside me to test the colors on. On the other hand, it's also important to take note of where you see solid lines and gradients in the reference picture, because this will help you plan out where you will be blending. Next, as you can see in the pupil, I decided to color the black part first and then the blue highlights second. This is okay in this case because I'm not doing any layering at this point. But if I'm layering, I do prefer to color from light to dark just to be cautious. Although having contrast is essential for realistic drawings, once you color too dark with colored pencils, it can be really hard to fix. One method you could use to help fix mistakes is using an electric eraser. The tip of the eraser spins quickly and removes the colored pencil from the page. Although it doesn't erase perfectly, it usually erases enough so that you can at least go over with another color. In the pupil, I use the electric eraser to add one more highlight near the edge. So when you see that there are many different color tones in one area, you should probably layer. This is really important in colored pencil drawings. In order to layer, it's important to apply moderate pressure. In other words, don't press too hard with the pencil. In the first layer, if you're using correct pressure, you should see some of the paper through the layer. I tend to start my layers using midtones and then adding the darker and lighter spots later. When adding subsequent layers, you still shouldn't press hard because this might overpower the bottom layers. In terms of the type of motion I use for creating layers and really coloring in general, I like to move my pencil in a circular motion. This creates smooth coverage. You don't want to be coloring continuously in the same direction when layering because you'll get something that looks like lines. If you're coloring a solid space and you're not planning on layering, not only should you press hard with your pencil, but you can apply it in whatever way you want. A really good technique that I've learned is to use lighter shades of a color to smooth out areas after many layers have been applied. So for instance, in the iris I used colors that were close to white, which allowed me to smooth out the layers without actually changing the final colors. It's important to note that I still use moderate pressure when blending areas with light colors. In the iris, I mainly use cool, light grays to blend the area. You should use cooler light colors with bluish undertones to blend areas that have mostly cool tones. So this includes blues, greens, and purples. But on the other hand, you should use warmer light colors with redder pink undertones to blend areas that have mostly warm tones, such as red, orange, yellow, or brown. Once you've finished the layers and smoothed them out using a lighter color, then you should go ahead and add details such as bright highlights and deep lowlights. Another technique that I use is that I don't strive to blend with perfect smoothness when I know that the texture of the area is irregular. This is especially true for surfaces like skin, which you will see when I work on the eyelid. While it's important to create relatively even layers, it's not really necessary to make them perfect if there's going to be texture anyways. As you continue layering, make sure you're blending the different areas. For instance, in the iris, I needed to blend the darker rim with the lighter inner area. In order to do that, continue using the circular motion with the pencil, but gradually reduce pressure as you move the colors toward one another. For the next part, I decided to start coloring the eyelid before adding the eyelashes because the eyelid is actually behind the eyelashes. Also, I know that I can create the eyelashes by easily drawing over the light layers with a black pencil. Overall, once you're done layering and blending, you're probably going to need to go back and fix things or add more layers. Sometimes you don't see what's missing until you're just about finished. A big part of realistic colored pencil drawings is detail and the contrast between blended and solid areas. You can think of this as the contrast between hard and soft edges. Unfortunately, because of the nature of colored pencils, it's really hard to add really bright highlights with light colors or even white. These pencils just don't go well over darker shades. Because of this, gel pens are great tools for adding these small details. I mostly use the Sakura Jelly Roll pens because they are so smooth. For lowlights or darker details, you can use dark pencils that are sharpened really well. Making sure the tip is as sharp as possible is really important. As you saw when I was adding details to the iris, I used my white gel pen. But for the eyelid, I'm using a variety of neon colors to achieve the look of glitter. The reason why I insisted on using the gel pen to create the glitter is because it's simply impractical to try and create those details using colored pencil. A technique that I like to use is dabbing the gel pen highlights with my finger right after I've applied them. This helps to tone them down if they're a little too bright. In my opinion, using gel pens for highlights is just a part of colored pencil drawing. In any case, they're great tools to supplement drawings in general. For the eyelashes, you can see I'm using a really sharp black colored pencil to create those details. Later, when I draw the eyebrow, I'll use the same technique to create the fine lines. Overall, I use these various techniques throughout each colored pencil drawing I create, including this one. As you watch the rest of the video, try to identify which technique I'm using for each part. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please let me know your thoughts and any questions you may have in the comments below. I'm looking forward to hearing from all of you.